on the Proceedings Committee, Chapter 7, and verse number 138, or I think it's onward, 138 onwards.
Hare Krishna. Thank you
Hare
very
Krishna.
much, Kaumadaki Mataji,
Thank
for
you, Mataji, for joining and giving us your valuable illustration and enlightening us on this topic. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kaumadaki Mataji. Thank you very much for the introduction and my gratitude to Kirtida Sundari Mataji for giving me this opportunity to come in the association of all of you very sincere and wonderful devotees and speak Krishna Katha. This is the greatest honor and privilege in life to be in the association of devotees and speak Krishna Katha. So today we will be discussing 4 verses from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela, chapter 7, entitled Lord Chaitanya Meets Vallabh Bhatta. We will be reading from verse 142 to 145. So before that, let us chant our Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madan Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadhrumad Shrimad Ratnagar Simhasanasthav Shrimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Preshthalibi Sevyamano Smarani Shrimad Rasa Rasarambhi Vamshi Vata Tatasthita Karshana Venu Swanaira Gopir Gopinathaya Shriyestunah Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. Verse number 142. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj is describing Jagadananda Panditera Shuddha Gada Bhav Satya Bhama Praya Prema Vamya Swabhav. Jagadananda Pandit's pure ecstatic love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very deep. It can be compared to the love of Srimati Satyabhama Devi, who always quarreled with Lord Krishna. Verse number 143. बार बार प्रणय कलह करे प्रभु सने अन्योन्य कटमटी चले दुई जने. Jagadananda Pandit was accustomed to provoking loving quarrels with the Lord. There was always some disagreement between them. Verse number 144. गदाधर पंडितेरा शुद्ध गाढ भाव रुक्मिणी देवी रायाचे दक्षिण स्वभाव. Gadadhar Pandit's pure ecstatic love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also very deep. It was like that of Rukmini Devi, who was always especially submissive to Krishna. See, my dear friends, look at verse number 142. Verse number 142. Jagadananda Panditera Shuddha Gada Bhav. Shuddha means pure, Gada means deep, and Bhav means the ecstatic love. So Jagadananda Pandit also has Shuddha Gada Bhav. And look at verse number 144 now. Gadadhara Panditera Shuddha Gada Bhav. Both of them had deep, pure love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But verse 142, Satyabhama Praya Prema Vamya Swabhav Rukmini Devi Rayaiche Dakshina Swabhav. Jagadananda Pandit has Vamya Bhav, Vamya Swabhav, means leftist. Sometimes can be very angry and will not hesitate to oppose Krishna's plans out of love. And equally pure love is Rukmini Devi, but she has Dakshina Swabha, very submissive. Verse number 145, the last verse for today. तार प्रणय रोष देखिते प्रभुर इच्छा है ऐश्वर्य ज्ञाने तार रोष नाही उपजय. Translation and purport by our most beloved founder Acharya. ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Translation of verse number 145. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes desired to see Gadadhar Pandit's affectionate anger. But because of Gadadhar Pandit's knowledge of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's opulences, his anger was never invoked. Purport. Joking with Rukmini Devi in Dwarka, Krishna once advised her to accept another husband because he was unfit for her. Rukmini Devi, however, unable to understand his joking words, took them very seriously and immediately fell to the ground in fear of separation from him. In the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagadananda Pandit was always in disagreement with the Lord, like Satyabhama. Whereas Gadadhar Pandit was always awed by the Lord's opulence and was therefore submissive to the Lord under all circumstances. End of purport. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhaya Te Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram आनंद लीलामय विग्रहाय हेमाभ्य दिव्या छवि सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते श्री चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते. Hare Krishna. Seeking the blessings of all of you, dear devotees. Praying for your blessings. I would like to speak few words on this section of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And today's verses are referring to certain pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. The pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna with Srimati Rukmini Devi and Srimati Satyabhama Devi. This is very, 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 very sweet. So, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining that we are in Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Yatijana Chudamani. He is the crest jewel, the best amongst the sannyasis. And he has very, very exalted intimate associates like Jagadananda Pandit, who is an incarnation of Satyabhama. And there is Gadadhar Pandit, who is non-different from Rukmini Devi or Srimati Radharani. And even Sripad Vallabhacharya, Vallabh Bhatt, has come to visit Jagannath Puri, and he invites Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, and Mahaprabhu is very happy to accept the invitation. And Sripad Vallabhacharya not only serves Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but also his associates. And Mahaprabhu is very happy with him. And then Kaviraj Goswami is describing how sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can take transcendental pleasure in invoking affectionate anger in his dear devotees. So he's trying to do that with Gadadhar Pandit by pretending to be angry with him because he's associating with with Vallabhacharya, Sripad Vallabhacharya. We discussed in the previous class also. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Priya Bhakta Dware Anyara Shiksha Kare Eita Prakare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses his own intimate devotees to teach us a lesson. So we should never think that Sripad Vallabhacharya made any mistakes or was an ordinary soul who needed purification. No. Shri Gaur Ganadesh Deepika of Shri Kavi Karnapur describes very clearly that Shri Vallabhacharya, Sripad Vallabh Bhatt, is an incarnation of Shukdev Goswami. So this is all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to see Gadadhar Pandit get angry with him, just like Jagadananda Pandit does. So Jagadananda Pandit, we will see actually in the Antelila, in the chapters to come, we will all see how Jagadananda Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu There are 2 chapters describing the interactions of Jagadananda Pandit with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very, very nectarian chapters. It is described how Jagadananda Pandit always had some sort of disagreement with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Sri Vrindavan Dham, Jagadananda Pandit said, I want to come with you. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, no, I am a sannyasi. You cannot come with me because you always want me to engage in sense gratification. You cook all sorts of opulent prasadam for me and you want me to eat it. As a sannyasi, I am supposed to be very simple. Then Nityananda Prabhu wanted to come. Mahaprabhu said, no. You already broke my sannyas danda. I cannot take you with me. Then Mukunda said, I want to come. Mukunda Dutt. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you are too attached to me. Every time you see me perform austerities that a sannyasi must perform, you feel very sad. You go to a corner and you cry and you don't eat. You give up eating and drinking because of my austerities. So in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by doing dosha arop, by feigning to make these allegations, actually they were allegations of love. But he rejected the offer of Nityananda Prabhu, he rejected the offer of Mukunda, and he rejected the offer of Jagadananda Pandit also, saying that when I don't engage in sense gratification that Jagadananda Pandit gives me, Jagadananda Pandit goes and he lies down on the floor in his room, locks the room, and doesn't eat for 3 days, and doesn't even take a bath for 3 days. He's so angry with me because Jagadananda Pandit is an expansion of Srimati Satyabhama Devi. Once Jagadananda Pandit, because he had never been to Vrindavan, he really wanted to go to Vrindavan. When Mahaprabhu went to South India, he wanted to go, Mahaprabhu did not take him. When Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Vrindavan, he wanted to go, Mahaprabhu did not take him. So Jagadananda Pandit was born and brought up in Bengal, and now he is in Jagannath Puri with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu is not accepting his gifts of opulence, his gifts of comforts and luxuries, because Mahaprabhu is a very renowned sannyasi. That's why he's called Yatijana Chudamani, the crest jewel of all sannyasis. Mahaprabhu was very strict. So Jagadananda Pandit, to demonstrate his anger towards Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told Mahaprabhu, all right Mahaprabhu, I am going to go. I want to go to Vrindavan. On the pretext of going for a yatra to Vrindavan to see Sri Vrindavan Dham, he seeks permission from Mahaprabhu. So he's angry with Mahaprabhu because Mahaprabhu is not accepting whatever he's giving or saying. So now he says, I want to go to Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu, give me permission to go to Vrindavan. And Mahaprabhu smiles and says, I will not give you permission. And that even further agitates Jagadananda Pandit. He says, please Mahaprabhu, give me permission. You don't treat me nicely here, you trouble me here, now just let me go. I want to go to Vrindavan. And Mahaprabhu says, if you go to Vrindavan in an angry mood, when you are angry with me, you will only go there and commit offenses. So I will not let you go. You stay here with me in Jagannath Puri. Jagadananda Pandit gets even more angry. He says, no Mahaprabhu, I have never had a chance to go to Vrindavan. You went to Vrindavan all alone with that Balabhadra Bhattacharya and one more servant. You didn't take me. I have never seen Vrindavan. I want to go to Vrindavan. Please let me go. And Mahaprabhu says, all right, I give you permission to go to Navadvip. Don't go to Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu says that Shashi Mata and all the devotees there, they are very much feeling separation from me. So I want you to go not to Vrindavan, but to Navadvip. And tell Shashi Mata about my activities here, how I am happy, how the devotees are with me, and how we are doing Nagar Sankirtan, and how we are worshipping Jagannath. Please give her all the good news, auspicious news, and make her happy. Pacify her heart, and also pacify the devotees there, like Advaita Acharya and Shivananda Sen and Murari Gupta. In this way, although Jagadananda Pandit wanted desperately to go to Vrindavan, Mahaprabhu disagreed with him and sent him to Navadvip. There in Navadvip, what to do now? He has to wait in Navadvip till Shivananda Sen and all the devotees, they come for their annual trip to Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra. And then they will stay for 4 months of Chaturmas. So he has to wait for that time. So he's in Navadvip for several months. So every day in the morning, he goes to the house of Shachi Mata and he tells her the pastimes and activities of Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And then remaining day, he is going to different devotees and telling them the pastimes of Mahaprabhu and making them happy. And at night, he comes to stay in the house of Shivananda Sen. Because Shivananda Sen and Jagadananda Pandit were from the same village. In fact, Shivananda Sen was like an uncle to Jagadananda Pandit. And it was Shivananda Sen who taught Jagadananda Pandit Srimad Bhagavatam when Jagadananda Pandit was just a small boy. So Jagadananda Pandit had a very intimate relationship with Shivananda Sen. So he would stay at night in the house of Shivananda Sen, but he would not sleep. How could he sleep in separation from his beloved Mahaprabhu? So at night he would sit with sandalwood and he would work very hard to make sandalwood oil. And for all the months that Jagadananda Pandit was in Jagannath Puri, with great labor, great hard work, he prepared first class, organic, fragrant, very, very amazing sandalwood pure oil. And he made a big jar full of it with his own hands. His love for Mahaprabhu and the grinding pain of separation manifested as that sandalwood oil. It was the essence of his love for Mahaprabhu. And for the next annual trip to Jagannath Puri, when Shivananda Sen organized the whole party of devotees, along with Shivananda Sen and all the Gaudiya devotees, Jagadananda Pandit also returned to Nilachal with his big jar of sandalwood oil. And he came and he knew that Mahaprabhu would not directly accept it from him. So very shyly, he gave that pot of oil to Swarup Damodar Goswami and Govinda. Govinda was the personal servant of Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami was the personal secretary. And he told them, at night, my dear Govinda, at night, you must massage little bit sandalwood oil on the head of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All day he is dancing, he is doing loud kirtan, he is in so much separation and so much love for Jagannath, for Krishna, that his blood pressure will go up and he might have headache. So if you rub this pure sandalwood oil, it will give good relief to Mahaprabhu and he will be able to sleep peacefully at night. So please do this service. And Govinda and Swarup Damodar Goswami were very appreciative for this service that Jagadananda Pandit had done. They said, certainly we will ask Mahaprabhu and we will massage him. That night, Govinda went very sheepishly near Mahaprabhu and he said, Mahaprabhu, just 2 minutes, you just lie down. I've got few drops of some sandalwood oil. I want to just rub it on your head. Your bile and your blood pressure, everything will come down. It will be good for you. And then you will get good sleep, good rest also. So can you please lie down? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very grave. He asked Govinda, who gave the sandalwood oil? Govinda looked down. He said, Jagadanand Pandit just came back with all the devotees from Navadvip and he brought a little bit of few drops of sandalwood oil for me to rub on your head. So it will make him very happy. It will make me also very happy. So please. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Acha, you want to massage some sandalwood oil on my head? Why don't we do this? Why don't we hire a masseuse, a person to massage me? And then I will lie down and all of you can massage me with nice fragrant oils. And then I will walk on the streets of Jagannath Puri and everybody who passes me, they will smell the fragrance of the aromatic oils that I am massaging myself with. And they will say, here goes a sense gratifying sannyasi. Here goes a daru sannyasi. They will make fun of me and they will laugh at me. Will that make you happy? And Govinda looks down. He's mortified at Mahaprabhu's anger. And he just shrinks away from Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu becomes very angry. Then next day in the morning, when all the devotees come together, Jagadananda Pandit inches his way towards Govinda and asks him, so did you massage the sandalwood oil to Mahaprabhu's head yesterday night? And Govinda is very scared. He tells Jagadananda Pandit what happened, how Mahaprabhu refused. And Jagadananda Pandit gets very upset that Mahaprabhu is not accepting Because that sandalwood oil is not just sandalwood oil, it is his love. It is Jagadananda Pandit's love and affection for Mahaprabhu. It is the fruit of his months of loving feelings of separation from Mahaprabhu when he was in Navadvip. And Mahaprabhu is not accepting it. Jagadananda Pandit says, don't give up. Do not give up. Ask again tonight. Maybe he will say yes. So Govinda says, okay. Govinda is scared. But he respects and loves Jagadananda Pandit. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, pleasing him with his service is the life and soul of Govinda. So that night again Govinda asks Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, today you danced so much, so many hours and hours you were dancing. Your blood pressure must be really gone up and you must be having some headache also. No? You take some rest. I will just put few drops and massage few drops of that sandalwood oil. It is very good according to Ayurveda. It reduces the bile in your body, it reduces the blood pressure. You will feel good. Again, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looks angrily at Govinda and he says, don't you again ask me about that sandalwood oil. A sannyasi's business is not to rub fragrant oils on their body. What to speak of fragrant oil? I am not even supposed to put coconut oil to moisturize my skin. A sannyasi is so renounced, they don't even use moisturizers. Not even ordinary oil. Let the skin become dry, let the skin get cracked and chapped and bleed. That is the austerity of a sannyasi, Mahaprabhu says. I will not even put ordinary oil. What to speak of fragrant oil? Don't ask me again. And as far as Jagadananda Pandit is concerned and his hard work and months he has worked to prepare this oil, donate this oil to the temple of Jagannath. But because Jagadananda Pandit has made it with a attitude of giving it to me, now it cannot be offered to Jagannath. So donate it to the temple of Jagannath and they can use this fragrant sandalwood oil in the lamps to burn in the lamps as fuel. And in this way, the hard labor of Jagadananda Pandit will become fruitful. I will not use. Govinda says, okay, Mahaprabhu, whatever you say. Next day morning, again, Jagadananda Pandit is waiting outside Gambhira. As soon as Govinda comes out, he goes to Govinda. Did Mahaprabhu accept the oil? And Govinda says, no. He says, you should donate it to the temple of Jagannath and they can use it in the lamps there to light the lamps so that it is offered to Jagannath. Mahaprabhu is not different from Jagannath. Jai Gaura, say Krishna, say Jagannath. But Mahaprabhu will not accept. He is a sannyasi. Jagadananda Pandit tells Govinda, bring me the jar of sandalwood oil. Govinda obediently brings the jar of the sandalwood oil and hands it over to Jagadananda Pandit. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes out to go to Jagannath Puri temple, Jagadananda Pandit is standing with that jar filled with pure fragrant sandalwood oil right in front of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu comes and Jagadananda Pandit is standing like this. Mahaprabhu looks at Jagadananda Pandit. Internally, Mahaprabhu is scared, but externally, Mahaprabhu smiles and he says, yes, very good. You give it to Jagannath Puri temple and Jagannath temple and they will use that oil for lamps. They need oil in the temple. They have so many lamps there. So just give it to the temple. Mahaprabhu tells Jagadananda Pandit. And right in front of Mahaprabhu, Jagadananda Pandit is fuming. His nostrils are going up and down. He's breathing heavily. And Mahaprabhu says, no, I know. You have worked very hard to prepare this sandalwood oil and you have carried it with your own loving hands all the way from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri. I know. But if you give it to the temple of Jagannath, then I will be very happy. Jagannath will be happy. And your hard labor in making the sandalwood oil also will be fruitful. Jagadananda Pandit looks at Mahaprabhu with anger, loving anger. Like Srila Prabhupada writes, affectionate anger. And he says, sandalwood oil, I prepared, I brought. Who told you? Who told you? Who says that I made this sandalwood oil? I did not make this sandalwood oil. I did not bring any sandalwood oil. And he throws that big jar of sandalwood oil on the ground right in front of Mahaprabhu. And all the oil is spilled. And he turns around and storms away to his room. His room is also next door only. And he goes, he shuts the door and lays down on the ground in anger. And everybody is looking down, everybody is scared and embarrassed. And Mahaprabhu just continues. He smiles and he continues with his morning duties. 1 day, 2 day, 3 days pass. And Jagadananda Pandit has still not come out of his room. The room door is still locked as it is. It's a long and very beautiful story. We don't have time today. But Mahaprabhu goes on the third day and he knocks on the door of Jagadananda Pandit. Jagadananda Pandit does not open the door. Then Mahaprabhu calls out from outside, "My dear Jagadananda, I am going to the temple of Jagannath, and at noon I will take a bath in the ocean and come back here to your house, to your room, to eat my lunch prasad. So please get up now and with a peaceful mind, please cook prasadam for me. I will be back at noon to eat. And whatever you cook, I will eat only that." Saying this, Mahaprabhu goes to the temple of Jagannath. As soon as Jagadananda Pandit, who is in the mood of Satyabhama Devi, who is in the mood of the Lord's eternal consort, when he gets this instruction that Mahaprabhu is going to come and accept prasad cooked by me in just a few hours, that is the greatest bliss for Jagadananda Pandit, because Mahaprabhu said, "Whatever you cook, I will eat." That means no matter how opulent, how tasty, how sumptuous it is, Mahaprabhu is going to accept it today. Immediately, Jagadananda Pandit gets up, like a sincere sadhak gets up when the alarm goes off in the morning. Immediately, the sincere sadhak will get up and go for bath. Like that, immediately, Jagadananda Pandit gets up, takes his bath. He calls for Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, because Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is an expert cook also, to assist him. And Jagadananda Pandit and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami together, they cook up a beautiful feast in the next 2-3 hours. Many, many items. Again, I don't want to describe it because this chapter is coming up. And then Mahaprabhu comes at noon and he eats to his full satisfaction. And Jagadananda Pandit keeps on serving, and Mahaprabhu doesn't have he's so afraid of Jagadananda Pandit that again he will get angry, again he will fast for 3 days, he will not even take a bath for 3 days. Then Mahaprabhu is full, but Mahaprabhu cannot say no, enough, because Jagadananda Pandit will be offended. So as much as Jagadananda Pandit is serving, Mahaprabhu is eating, and he is eating with great pleasure, because he's tasting the love of Jagadananda Pandit and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami in that prasad, in that bhoga. My spiritual master Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj was saying, what makes a rasgulla sweet? He asked he said, this is a very serious philosophical question. What makes a rasgulla sweet? It was not a rhetorical question. He wanted an answer. He said, what makes a rasgulla sweet? And everyone in the audience, all the devotees, they replied, sugar. And Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj said, sugar may make the rasgulla sweet for all of us. But what makes the rasgulla sweet for Krishna? It is the love of the devotee. It is the sweetness of the love of the cook. The devotee who is making that rasgulla, who is preparing that rasgulla, that Krishna tastes. We taste the sugar for sweetness. But for Krishna, the sweetness is in the devotion. That's why the banana peels of Vidurani were very sweet and nectarian for Krishna. I actually tried to eat a little bit of banana peel once. It is very, very unpalatable. Very, very unpalatable. But Krishna was eating peels after peels of the bananas that that Vidurani was giving, the wife of Vidur, because she had devotion, and that is what Krishna was tasting. So in this way, there was always a tussle between Krishna and between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagadananda Pandit. Just like there was always a tussle between Satyabhama and Krishna. But it is loving tug of war. Then finally Krishna said that Jagadananda Pandit, I have eaten, as much as 10 or 12 people can eat. I've eaten 10 times what I normally do. Is it enough now? So then Jagadananda Pandit smiles. He's satisfied with Mahaprabhu's reciprocation. Then he gets nice tambul, nice betel leaves, and he gives Mahaprabhu camphor, nice fragrant spices to chew on. He brings a nice garland for Mahaprabhu, garlands him, gives Mahaprabhu scented water to drink, and he applies chandan on Mahaprabhu's forehead. And then Mahaprabhu sits down. Mahaprabhu relaxes, and then he says, "All right, Jagadananda Pandit, you have served me so nicely, such nice prasadam you made. Now I'm going to sit here. You have not eaten for 3 days. You have fasted for 3 days. And I knew that you will only break your fast if you get my remnants. So therefore, I have accepted with great love and satisfaction what you have cooked. Now I'm going to sit here. You sit in front of me and you eat prasad. I want to see you eat because you have not eaten in 3 days." So Jagadananda Pandit tells Mahaprabhu, "Mahaprabhu, after eating lunch prasad, it is your um, it is your um, um, it is your custom, it is your habit to go and take rest for a few minutes. So now you go to Gambhira, go back to Gambhira with Govinda, and you take rest. And after you sleep, then Govinda, you come back and I will feed you, and only after feeding you I will eat." So Mahaprabhu says, "No, no, no, Govinda will stay here. And Govinda, I am going to Gambhira. You stay here and you make sure that Jagadananda Pandit eats. Only then you come." And Jagadananda Pandit said, "No, no, no, I will eat because first I have to feed Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He also helped me. There are other helpers also. I have to feed them. Then I will be eating. So Govinda, you don't wait here. You go. You massage Mahaprabhu's feet, and then later on you come." So then Govinda takes Mahaprabhu to Gambhira. He massages his feet, but Mahaprabhu says, "Okay, that's enough. Now you go and you make sure that Jagadananda Pandit eats." Then Govinda goes, and then Jagadananda Pandit and Govinda, they both eat prasadam. And then Govinda comes back and tells Mahaprabhu that, "Mahaprabhu, Jagadananda Pandit has broken his fast. He has eaten nicely." Only then Mahaprabhu goes to sleep. Only then he goes to sleep. So these were the sweet, affectionate tug of wars between Jagadananda Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like Satyabhama and Krishna. Because when Krishna gifted a beautiful flower, a Parijat flower to Rukmini Devi, Satyabhama was so angry. She was fuming with anger. "How can you give Parijat flower to Rukmini and not me?" And Krishna tried to pacify. Bhagavatam says he almost fell at the feet of Satyabhama. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I will give you also a flower." But Satyabhama was not pacified until and unless Krishna brought the full Parijat tree with innumerable Parijat flowers and gifted Satyabhama. Then Satyabhama was satisfied. But Krishna was wondering that when I gave one flower to Rukmini, one Parijat flower to Rukmini, and nothing to Satyabhama, Satyabhama got angry. But then I gave a full Parijat tree to Satyabhama, and Rukmini has only one flower. Satyabhama has innumerable flowers. Then why Satyabhama got angry? But now that Satyabhama has got a tree and Rukmini doesn't have a Parijat tree, why Rukmini is not getting angry? That was the question that Krishna had in his heart. If Satyabhama got angry, why Rukmini is not getting angry now when Satyabhama has got a full Parijat tree to herself? So Krishna wanted to see Rukmini angry. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport here to verse 145. Joking with Rukmini Devi in Dwarka, Krishna once advised her to accept another husband because he was unfit for her. So Krishna tried to elicit anger in Rukmini Devi. So let us discuss that story, my dear friends. We have around 15 minutes. So we saw the mood of Jagadananda Pandit. Now let us see the mood of Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit's mood is submissive. It is Dakshin Bhav. It is submissive Bhav, just like that of Rukmini Devi. So let us see the background of Rukmini Devi. Rukmini Devi, she was from Vidarbha, in a town called Kundina, and this town still exists in Vidarbha. It's called Kaundanyapur. So this Kaundanya town was the capital of Vidarbha, and the king was Maharaj Bhishmak, who was a very nice, cultured devotee of Krishna. And he had a son, Rukmi, who was the elder son, and he had a younger daughter, Rukmini. So Rukmini was the brother, Rukmini was the daughter. Rukmini Devi is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. She is the goddess of fortune. And when Rukmini Devi was young, once Narad Muni came to the palace of Maharaj Bhishmak, and Narad Muni described the qualities of Krishna. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. He described the beautiful pastimes of Krishna. He described the Vrindavan pastimes of Krishna. He described the Mathura pastimes of Krishna. He described how Krishna built Dwarka. And just by hearing these pastimes of Krishna, young Rukmini Devi, she fell in love with Krishna. She gave her heart to Krishna. It was love at first katha. The first Krishna katha she heard, she gave her heart to Krishna. This is the effect of hearing from a great soul. And then Rukmini decided in her heart that I will only give myself, I will offer myself to only Krishna and no one else. I belong to Krishna. And Maharaj Bhishmak was very much in line with this thought process of Rukmini Devi. He also very much loved Krishna. He respected Krishna, and it was his deepest desire that Krishna should become my son-in-law. I must give my daughter Rukmini to Krishna. No one but Krishna. This was the desire of King Bhishmak. But my dear friends, please pay attention now, last 10-15 minutes of the class. But the son of Maharaj Bhishmak, the elder son, Rukmi, he hated Krishna because of his friendship with Shishupal and others. The best friends of Prince Rukmi were Maharaj Pundrak, the false Vasudev, Dantavakra, his brother Shishupal, Shalya, and other wicked kings like Jarasandha Maharaj. They were very thick friends, all of them. And all of them bore a very deep animosity towards Krishna and Balram. So friends of the birds of the same feather flock together, they say. So these friends, they were like-minded. It was Sajatiya Sangha for them. So they were associating with each other. And one day in their Abhakti Vriksha meeting, Rukmi made a decision. Shishupal, I will give my younger sister to you. And everybody knew about the beauty of Rukmini, the qualities of Rukmini. They had never seen Rukmini Devi. Nobody had seen Rukmini Devi because she always was very much protected in the inner chambers of the palace. That was the custom of those days. Girls were always given protection. But they had heard about the beauty and the qualities of Rukmini Devi. And as soon as Rukmi said that, Shishupal started making plans of sense gratification. And he was so happy. It was the most important thing in his life to marry Rukmini Devi. And without consulting with Bhishmak Maharaj, Rukmi decided that I will give my sister in marriage to Shishupal. And then Bhishmak Maharaj could not do anything because after all, Rukmi was his elder son and he had some affection for his son also. So he was helpless and whatever. Then all the arrangements were made and the city of Kondina was decorated. The streets were cleaned. They were sprinkled with scented water. There were pots of yogurt and ghee and scented water kept outside the homes. There was decoration everywhere. Flower garlands decorated the whole city. The citizens were dressed up in beautiful, gorgeous clothes with nice garlands and jewels and everything. The whole city was beautified for this wedding ceremony. And invitations were given to all the kings of the world. And Rukmini Devi was heartbroken. She could not bear the thought of marrying another man. My dear friends, please put yourself in the position of Srimati Rukmini Devi. Let us empathize with her. She has to marry Shishupal, who is a wicked offender. From his childhood, Shishupal has only blasphemed and criticized Krishna. And Rukmini loves Krishna. And Rukmini cannot marry Krishna. She has to marry Shishupal, who hates and blasphemes Krishna. Which means from the moment Rukmini Devi gets married to Shishupal, for the rest of her life, she will have to hear the blasphemy of the one who she has given her heart to. This was a very, very painful situation for Rukmini Devi. But it was the most exciting and blissful moment for Shishupal and the whole gang. So they all came to Kundina for the marriage. And Rukmini Devi didn't know what to do. She was trapped. It was a very difficult situation for her. I was hearing one lecture of Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj where he talks about this pastime. And he was saying, just think about this. In the previous Yuga, Rukmini Devi was Srimati Sita, the daughter of Maharaj Janak. She was Janaki. She was Sita Devi. And Janak Maharaj and the whole family, they decided to get Sita Devi married to Lord Ram after he broke the Shiva Dhanush, the bow of Lord Shiva in the Swayamvar. They were in agreement with Srimati Sita Devi that you must garland Lord Ramchandra. He is the only one who is fit to be your husband, and you are most qualified to be his wife. So Sita Devi's family was supporting her decision to marry Ram. But in the next Yuga, that same Sita has come as Rukmini Devi. But now, instead of getting her married to Ram, who has come as Krishna, now the family of Sita Devi, the family of Rukmini Devi, is wanting to get her married to Ravan, who has come as Shishupal in Dwapar Yuga. Ravan of Treta Yuga and Kumbhakaran. They came as Shishupal and Dantavakra. Kumbhakaran is Dantavakra and Ravan is Shishupal. So that same Ravan has come to marry Sita Devi in the form of Rukmini Devi. Just see the difficulty of the situation. How much Rukmini Devi was tormented. So in her great anxiety, helpless situation, she simply meditated on the lotus feet of Krishna. And she called a very qualified Vaishnava Brahman, a very great devotee of Vidarbha. And she hand wrote a love letter, the first love letter. She hand wrote a love letter and she sealed it and gave it to that Brahman and told him, I know the time is short, but may the Supreme Lord empower you. Please immediately go to Dwarka and somehow or the other go to Dwarkadish Krishna and give him my message in the form of this letter. Please. I have given my heart to him. I cannot think of marrying Shishupal. And this Vaishnava Brahman was such a great devotee. He took shelter, it is described, of Adi Guru Shri Balaram. And Balaram gave him the bal, the strength to reach Dwarka in the middle of the ocean in one night. Overnight he ran and he reached Dwarka. He was not a trained military man where he was trained in running marathons. No. This strength, my dear friends, in our devotional activities, we get from Nityananda Ram, from Balaram, who is the Adi Guru. The strength to follow our vows, the strength to perform our bhajan comes from Balaram. Lord Balaram takes the greatest pleasure in giving us his strength, the strength of determination. So that utsaha, nischayat, dhairyat, we can with enthusiasm, confidence and patience, we can carry out our devotional service. This Brahman of Kaundinyapur was given the strength to travel overnight to Dwarka and come in the presence of Dwarkadish Krishna by Lord Balaram, who is the Adi Guru. And he delivered the message. And Krishna was so transparent, he said, you read it. After welcoming the Brahman very nicely, washing his feet, massaging his feet, inquiring about his welfare, giving him prasad to eat. Then Krishna asked him, please read the message. And he read the message of Rukmini Devi. Her heartfelt prayers that, my dear Ajit, oh unconquerable Lord, please accept me as your wife. I have given my heart to you. But very soon I am going to be married to Shishupal. And she mentioned the Muhurta when she was going to get married to Shishupal. So please come and kidnap me. Rukmini Devi begged Krishna, come and kidnap me and marry me in the Rakshasa Vidhi, in the Rakshasa style. And she gave all sorts of ideas that you must be wondering how you will come, my family members, guards, everyone will be there. I will be inside the palace. How you will enter the palace to kidnap me? I will tell you an idea. You enter the city of Kundina very, very stealthily without letting anyone know. And when I come to the temple of Ambika just before my wedding, I will be outside on the road. As soon as I come out of the temple, you come on the chariot and just take me on your chariot and take me away as your wife. Just like a lion comes and takes the prey from the pack of jackals, take me away. Before these pack of jackals like Shishupal and Dantavakra and Poundrak and Jarasandh take me. You please come and take me. I belong only to you. But if you don't accept my proposal, Srimati Rukmini Devi is writing, and you don't come, that is all right. I understand. Because I am not qualified to have you as my husband. But I have already given my heart to you and I will accept no one else. I will perform severe austerities and my body will become weak from those austerities and it will fall down dead. In this way, remembering your lotus feet and performing austerities to get you as my husband, I will spend hundreds of lifetimes. I'm willing to spend hundreds of lifetimes. And then I will hope that in one lifetime, maybe you will accept me as your wife. But I will wait. I will wait for you. She wrote this letter. When the Brahman wrote this message, Krishna smiled. He took the hands of the Brahman in his hands and said, my dear Brahman, just like Rukmini has given her heart to me, I have also given my heart to Rukmini. In fact, I have been thinking about her for a long time. I cannot sleep at night, O Brahman. I'm always thinking of your Rukmini. Daruk, come and prepare the chariot with 4 horses. One horse was black, one horse was white, one horse was yellow, one was green. And Daruk immediately prepared the horse. And Lord Krishna told the Brahman to mount the chariot. And then Krishna also got on the chariot. And in one night, from Dwarka, in the middle of the ocean, off the coast of Gujarat, they came to western Maharashtra, Vidarbha, in the town of Kundina. And they entered. And as soon as the news reached Maharaj Bhishmak that Krishna has come, Bhishmak Maharaj was very happy. He thought Krishna has come to witness the marriage. It was his desire that Krishna should marry Rukmini Devi, but he was happy at least Krishna has blessed the kingdom of Vidarbha with his presence. So he immediately sent many gifts to Krishna. But as soon as Balaram came to know that my younger brother, Ramanuj, my younger brother has gone all alone to the kingdom of that wicked prince Rukmi who hates Krishna, and there might be a battle. The protective instincts of Lord Balram took over, and he immediately gathered the powerful Yadu dynasty, Yadu army, and overnight Balram also came to Vidarbha, and he met with Krishna early in the morning before the wedding ceremony. And Krishna was very happy that Balram has come. And Bhishmak Maharaj sent gifts for Balramji also, honoring him, welcoming him. And in the morning, Rukmini Devi was given a very auspicious bath. She was dressed in brand new clothes which were fresh off the yarn. Most precious jewels decorated her transcendental body. And surrounded by her female friends, female servants, and outer circle of armed guards, she was brought out on a palanquin. And then around 15-20 feet away from the Ambika temple, the temple of Mother Durga, the palanquin was kept down and she went walking, because you're supposed to enter the temple of the Lord walking, not on a palanquin. It is one of the Seva Aparadhs. So Rukmini Devi walked to the temple of Ambika Devi, who was the Kula Daivat, the family deity for Maharaj Bhishmak. She went inside, and all the Brahmins had been employed by Maharaj Bhishmak to chant auspicious mantras from the Vedas. And they came to know that Rukmini Devi has given her heart to Krishna. So when they were chanting the mantras, instead of praying that may Rukmini Devi marry, I don't even want to take his name, that fellow, let her marry Shri Krishna. So they chanted the mantras in a modified way, which meant they were praying that, oh Bhavani Devi, please make sure that our Rukmini gets married to Krishna. Like that. But nobody knew because all this was happening inside. Shishupal and others were waiting outside on their chariots. Shishupal also was given a ceremonial bath. Shishupal also was wearing fresh new clothes. Shishupal was decorated with the finest ornaments um, and garlands and everything. And he was on a royal chariot, and there were his supporters on elephant backs and horsebacks, and everyone was there. The whole supporters team was there. And as Rukmini Devi went inside, Shishupal told all of them, I suspect that Krishna will be up to some mischief. The most precious thing in my life is to marry this beautiful girl. So, my dear friends, today is your opportunity to prove your friendship to me. If Krishna tries to take away my bride, please let us fight him and kill him on the spot. I don't want to kill Krishna right now because I'm about to get married. It's inauspicious to kill on one's wedding day. Otherwise, I would have killed him. But all of you are my friends. I trust all of you. Please keep an eye out for Krishna and Balram and stop them and attack them if they try to do something to my bride. So they were ready, and they had come with their armies. Hundreds and thousands of armed soldiers were ready with their weapons trained at Krishna and Balram. If they do something, we'll kill them. And Rukmini Devi comes outside. And then Shukdev Goswami describes in Srimad Bhagavatam the beauty of Srimati Rukmini Devi. She was so beautiful. Her lips were like the bimba fruit. Her beautiful white teeth were like the buds of a jasmine flower. Her body was very slender. Her skin was effulgent. And she had a very sweet smile. She had very, very beautiful, effulgent, shiny, curly black hair. And with the hair were coming on her forehead, and she was afraid that her hair may block her eyesight when she has to search for Krishna in the crowd of those kings. So with her left hand, she moved the curls of her hair. All this is just, and when she did that, she very shyly looked up because there was some commotion in the crowd. She could hear some people saying under their breath, oh, Krishna has come, Krishna has come, Krishna has come. Rukmini Devi did not want to look at Shishupal. She did not want to look at Jarasandh or Poundrak or all those crazy fellows. She only wanted to look at Krishna. So when she heard the hushed sounds from the crowd that, oh, there is Krishna, Krishna has come, Krishna has come, look, Krishna, Krishna on the chariot. When she heard that in that direction, she very shyly raised her eyes and looked in that direction. And what happened was when she did like this to her hair, all the kings looking at the divine beauty of Rukmini Devi, they fell off their elephants, they fell off their chariots, they fell unconscious. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that they did not even see Rukmini, but still they fainted. Because Rukmini Devi is the internal potency of Krishna. She is the Ladini Shakti of Krishna. How can the Ladini Shakti of Krishna be lusted upon by materialistic men who are contaminated by the anarthas like lust and envy? How can someone who is envious of Krishna and who is lusty be able to behold the beautiful spiritual form of the Ladini Shakti of Krishna, Srimati Rukmini Devi? Impossible, says Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Therefore, he explains that Ambika Devi and Srimati Rukmini Devi, they manifested a Maya Rukmini form. Just like Ravan got Maya Sita, Shishupal also got to see Maya Rukmini. He could not see the real Rukmini. And by seeing that illusory Maya form, the material form of Rukmini Devi, they collapsed. Because our acharyas explain the moment we have ulterior motive in our heart, the moment we have the slightest tinge of lust, we cannot approach Srimati Radharani. We cannot. Because she is the Antaranga Shakti of Krishna. It is just not, it's incompatible. Just like water and oil cannot mix. It is not possible. We have to be completely purified to be able to approach Srimati Radharani, to be able to see Srimati Radharani's beauty. So they only saw Maya Rukmini and they collapsed. And when Rukmini Devi finally looked up towards Krishna, Krishna and Rukmini Devi's eyes met for the first time in this Leela. And Rukmini Devi immediately gave her heart through the medium of the eyes. She gave her heart to Krishna. Krishna, I am yours. Krishna, I am yours. Just before going into the temple of Ambika Devi, the Brahman had come and he had told Rukmini that Krishna has accepted your letter, your proposal, and he is here. He is here in Kondina and he will take you. So Rukmini Devi was very confident that Krishna will take her. And as soon as their eyes met, Krishna came on his chariot and just she held the hand of Rukmini Devi and brought her on the chariot and just drove off. And all the kings, they recovered from their fainting spell and their soldiers came and they all started shooting arrows at Krishna and Krishna defeated all of them. And Balramji came with the powerful Yadu dynasty and defeated everybody. And Krishna went away with Rukmini. So this is the kidnapping of Rukmini Devi. Krishna married her by kidnapping her. Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj was explaining that why did Krishna kidnap Rukmini Devi? Why did he kidnap Rukmini Devi? And it's very, very amazing. Maharaj says Krishna kidnapped Rukmini Devi because of his promise in Bhagavad Gita. Ye yathamam prapadyante tamstathaeva bhajamyaham. As you approach me, I will reciprocate accordingly, Krishna says. So Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj explained that in the previous yuga, this Shishupal had come as Ravan. And Ravan had kidnapped Sita Devi away from Ram. Sita was Ram's wife, but Ravan kidnapped Sita. Therefore, Maharaj says in Dwapar Yuga, that same Ram came as Krishna, that same Sita Devi came as Rukmini Devi, and Ravan came as Shishupal. Because in Treta Yuga, Ravan had kidnapped Ram's Sita. In Dwapar Yuga, Yayathamam Prapadyante, Krishna kidnapped Rukmini Devi, who was supposed to get married to Shishupal. So Ravan kidnapped Ram's wife Sita. So therefore, Krishna kidnapped Shishupal's so-called would-be wife Rukmini Devi to reciprocate. Yayathamam Prapadyante tamstathaeva bhajami. But Maharaj said, see the difference between Ravan and Krishna. Ravan kidnapped Sita Devi by sending another demon, Marich, making him take the form of that golden deer, and he somehow diverted Ram and Lakshman away from the cottage. And when Sita was alone, he came dressed as a sadhu, like a hypocrite, and he impersonated as a sadhu and tricked her, cheated her, and he half killed Jatayu, made him bleed to death, and forcefully kidnapped Sita and took her away as Sita Devi was crying, Ram, Ram, Ram. But Maharaj said, look at the difference. Krishna also kidnapped Rukmini, but how did he kidnap? He kidnapped right in the presence of Shishupal and Shishupal's friends like Jarasandha and others. And he kidnapped when they were ready with their arms, ready to fight. And he gave them a face-to-face fight and defeated them and took. He didn't have to injure any devotee like Ravan injured and killed Jatayu. And he did not make Rukmini Devi cry like Ravan made Sita Devi cry. In fact, Rukmini herself had proposed that you come and kidnap me. And he took Rukmini Devi with him to Dwarka, where all the residents of Dwarka were eagerly waiting, and happily they welcomed Krishna and Rukmini into Dwarka and got them married. So this is the difference, my dear friends, between Ravan and Krishna. This is the difference between the Lord and us. But in this world, we will always find people to distract us, divert us, and give us the wrong advice. When Krishna defeated Rukmi and Shishupal, Jarasandh came and he told Rukmi, because Rukmi couldn't believe this happened. Shishupal couldn't believe. Can you imagine? Shishupal had come all the way from his kingdom of Chedi to get married. The invitations had gone, the announcements had gone out. He was so much anticipating this marriage, this beautiful girl called Rukmini Devi. And right in front of him, all his plans were foiled by Krishna, the person who he hated the most. So again, Maharaj was explaining this transcendental um, uh, contrast. He says, just see, in the previous yuga, Ravan so desperately wanted to marry Sita. That's why he devised an elaborate plan and kidnapped her. And then he told Sita, you marry me. I will give you all the comforts and luxuries. And Sita Devi said, no, I have already given my heart to Ram. I will not marry you. Then Ravan said, I will make you the queen of Lanka. Please marry me. It's the golden city of Lanka. You will be the queen. Sita Devi said, no, I will not marry you. Ravan said, Mandodari will become your servant. All my wives will become your servants. Please marry me. Sita Devi said, no, I will not marry you. Ravan tried to threaten her through the Rakshasis living in the Ashokvan. Tell her that she has to marry me, otherwise I will chop her into pieces and eat her for breakfast. Still, Srimati Sita Devi said, I will not marry Ravan. Then Lord Ramchandra came and there was a big war over Sita, who will marry Sita, whether Ravan can marry Sita or not. And Ravan lost his brother Kumbhakaran, he lost his son Sakshay Kumar, Indrajit, everyone in that great war over Sita, whether Ravan could marry Sita or not. That was the reason the war was fought. And Ravan lost his kingdom, he lost his wealth, he lost his reputation, he lost his family members. Ravan even lost his own life. He was killed because he wanted to marry Sita. And then Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj explained, now that same Ravan has come as Shishupal, and that same Sita has come as Rukmini. And that wedding, that marriage for which Ravan struggled and fought so much in the previous life, that marriage is about to take place. The arrangements have been done, the Pandits have come, all the preparations are done. Rukmini is just walking out with the garland to garland, the bridegroom. That marriage is about to take place. Ravan, who has come as Shishupal, must be so excited. And suddenly Krishna comes and takes Rukmini away. And Krishna is the one who Shishupal hates the most. Shishupal was, we don't have words to describe what he was feeling. He was so dejected, despondent, disappointed, heartbroken, frustrated, desperate. And Jarasandh comes and preaches in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Jarasandh preaches to Rukmi and Shishupal. And guess what advice he gives? He comes, Jarasandh, and he says, let me give you a personal example. I attacked Krishna 17 times, and each time he defeated me. But I did not give up. I attacked him the 18th time, and I won. Krishna ran away. He got scared of me. I won the 18th time. Therefore, my dear Shishupal and my dear Rukmi, don't be disappointed and don't give up. Go and fight. So Rukmi alone, he charged towards Krishna, chased after Krishna, caught up with Krishna, and started shooting arrows at him. Even though his sister was on the same chariot, started shooting arrows. And Krishna, with his great Sharanga bow, he shot back and broke the chariot, broke the bow, broke the armor, everything of Rukmi, and captured Rukmi. And then with his sword, he was about to chop off the head of Rukmi. And Rukmini Devi, who is very soft-hearted, she started crying. She said, my dear Lord, on my wedding day, do I have to see the death of my brother? I know he's wicked. I know he's cruel. He's irreligious. But do I really have to see his death? Please forgive him. He's my brother after all. Let him go. And Balramji also chastised Krishna. Krishna, what are you doing? You are going to kill your brother-in-law the day of your wedding. Don't do that. Balramji did it later. So then Krishna took a razor-sharp arrow, and with the tip of the arrow, he Krishna became a hairdresser. When Krishna becomes a hairdresser, it's very funny. Being a hairdresser is not one of the opulences of Krishna. He gave a very funny haircut to Rukmi. He just randomly cut his hair at different places and made him look very funny and utterly humiliated. And then he released him. But Rukmi, when he was preached by Jarasandh and told not to give up, Rukmi had taken a vow: I will not return to Vidarbha until I have killed Krishna and I bring my sister back and give her hand in marriage to my friend Shishupal. He took a vow. And he chased after Krishna. So now he was defeated. He couldn't go back home. So right at the place where he was defeated and humiliated by Krishna, he built a new city with his wealth. He built a city and he said, I will stay here and I will plan further attacks on Krishna. Such is the mentality of a person who is conditioned by the anarthas. And Krishna and Rukmini Devi, they went to Dwarka and they lived very happily there. After all this, Rukmini Devi is so much in love with Krishna. She knows no one but Krishna. Krishna is her life and soul. And there, one day Krishna is sitting in their palace. Krishna and Rukmini, they are in their palace, in their bedroom. And Rukmini Devi, with a chamar, she is fanning Krishna and serving Krishna. And Krishna is looking how sweetly, how wonderfully, with such devotion, Rukmini is always serving me. But Krishna is thinking why she doesn't get angry. Like Satyabhama gets angry. I relish that anger so much, affectionate anger. Why Rukmini doesn't get angry? Let me invoke anger in her. So Krishna told her, oh Rukmini, my dear Rukmini, you made a mistake marrying me. You should not have married me. Shishupal is so handsome. Shishupal is so strong. He's got royal blood. He's a Kshatriya. I don't even know about my blood, whether I am a Vaishya or a Kshatriya or half Vaishya, half Kshatriya. I don't know. I'm just a cowherd boy. And you married me. I don't think that was a good decision. I don't think that was far-sighted of you. I think that was short-sightedness. You should not have chosen me. You should have chosen one of those kings, especially Shishupal. He's so great. He's so brave. He fought for you. Me, on the other hand, I ran away in battle when Jarasandh attacked me. And out of fear of Jarasandh, I made a city in the middle of the ocean called Dwarka. So I am not so qualified as those kings like Shishupal. I killed my own uncle. That's why they consider me to be very cruel. So I think you should have married Shishupal and not me. And moreover, you may wonder why I came and married you. It is actually not out of love for you. I came and married you because I wanted to settle a score with your brother, Rukmi, and with Shishupal, who always criticize me. I have a personal enmity against them, and to settle personal score, I came and I kidnapped you and married you. It was not out of love for you. It was because I wanted to settle a personal score against Rukmi and Shishupal. I don't really love you. In fact, I don't love anybody. I'm Atmaram. I'm self-satisfied. And then Krishna was looking at the reaction of Rukmini Devi. Rukmini Devi was fanning as Krishna had started speaking. And as Krishna was saying that you should have married Shishupal, you should not have married me. I am not qualified. I am scared. I ran away from battle. I don't know whether I am from a royal blood or not. Shishupal, on the other hand, is of a royal blood. As Rukmini was hearing all this criticism of Krishna and glorification of another man, Rukmini Devi's heart was completely shattered. It was like a powerful thunderbolt was taken and crashed into the tender heart of Srimati Rukmini Devi. Her hands started trembling. Hot tears appeared in her beautiful lotus eyes. She became pale. She became unsteady. She started breathing heavily and she continued to fan Krishna, but suddenly the chamar fell off from her hand because she was so grief-stricken. And when Krishna said that I don't love you, in fact, I don't love anyone, I married you just to settle a personal score against your brother and Shishupal, who always criticize me, who are always inimical towards me. In fact, I don't love anybody. I'm Atmaram. I don't need anybody. I'm happy within myself. I don't need your service. I don't need your love. When Krishna said that, Rukmini Devi could not take it anymore. Such a tender-hearted, pure devotee. She just collapsed on the floor. Tada! Just fell down, fainted. And Krishna's practical joke severely backfired. Krishna did not expect this reaction. He spoke what he said out of joke to invoke anger in Rukmini Devi. But as Krishna is sitting in his beautiful two-armed form, joking at Rukmini Devi as Rukmini Devi is fanning him, suddenly Rukmini Devi collapsed on the ground. She fainted, became unconscious. Our two-armed Krishna, two-armed Dwarkadish immediately manifested a four-armed form. And simultaneously he picked up Rukmini Devi from the ground. Simultaneously he rubbed the tears off her eyes. Simultaneously he started fanning her with the tip of her own sari to awaken her. And with his hands, he started massaging her head, thinking that she's having a headache. And simultaneously, he placed her on the bed, which was covered with a very soft mattress and a bed sheet that was as white as the foam of milk. He placed her there, and with his hands simultaneously started caressing her face and comforting her. And he spoke, "My dear Rukmini, I was only joking. I'm sorry, I was only joking." The greatest pleasure for a householder is to see affectionate anger in his wife. I wanted to see anger in you. But instead of becoming angry, you became sad, you became depressed, you became melancholic, and you just fainted out of extreme grief. Please, please know that whatever I spoke was a lie. I was just joking. I love you very much. In fact, none of my wives can give me as much satisfaction as you. I love the way you serve me. I love you back. I'm always thinking of you. I cannot get you out of my mind. I love you, Rukmini. Krishna tells. In this way, Krishna completely satisfies and pacifies the heart of Rukmini Devi. But then Rukmini Devi, when she gets up, she tells Krishna, actually, Krishna, I am not qualified to be your wife. How can I be qualified to be your wife? You are the supreme personality of Godhead. Even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva worship your lotus feet. And how can I, who is a product of your energy, how can I be qualified to be your wife? I am not qualified. And she starts sobbing. And then Krishna again comforts her and tells her, please don't say like this. No one is as dear to me as you. You are my best devotee. You are my favorite wife. I love you very much. Please, I was just joking. In this way, Krishna pacified Rukmini Devi, and Rukmini Devi and Krishna lived happily together in their palace. So these are the two bhavs. There is the Vamya bhav, where the devotee pleases Krishna by becoming angry. Why you gave Parijat flower to Rukmini? I want a full tree. That also pleases Krishna. And the other bhav is the Dakshin bhav, where the consort of the Lord is very submissive and starts crying when the Lord teases them. That also gives pleasure to the Lord. So in this way, in different moods, there is so much variety in the spiritual world. Everyone is serving Krishna with the mood to give pleasure to Krishna, with the aim of giving pleasure to Krishna. And Krishna is giving pleasure to the devotees. Please don't think that when Rukmini Devi fainted and collapsed on the floor, it gave her suffering. Or don't think when Satyabhama felt envious towards Rukmini Devi because she didn't get the Parijat flower, that gave misery to Satyabhama Devi. That is not so. In fact, just yesterday I was listening to a lecture where it was mentioned that Bhajahu Remana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. If one takes shelter of the son of Nanda Maharaj, Nanda Nandan Krishna, one gets fearlessness. But Nanda Maharaj himself was in constant fear that some demon will come. Now Putana came, now Trinavarta came, now Shakadasur came, now who will come? He's constantly in anxiety that Krishna will be attacked. Kalia came and he's changing his place of residence also from Mahavan. He's moving to Nandagaon. So all these things are happening because Nanda Maharaj is afraid for Krishna. So Srila Radhana Swami Maharaj was saying, how is that possible? that bhajahu re mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanarvindare, by worshipping the lotus feet of Nandanandan Krishna, the son of Nanda Baba, you become fearless. But Nanda Baba himself is scared. How is that possible? Then Maharaj clarified that this people in this world, they want to be worry free, tension free. I have got the best insurance policy, I have got the best home security system, I've got the safest car, I've got a big 401k, I have got my money invested in different pockets so that there is no risk. We want worry free, stress free, fear free life. We want to be abhay, we want to be nirbhay. And we feel by becoming anxiety free, fear free, we will be happy. But Maharaj said that Nanda Maharaj's fear for the sake of Krishna is a higher spiritual realization, is a higher spiritual experience than being fearless in this world. Hare Krishna. So these tears of love, these fainting spells that the devotees like Rukmini Devi experience, or the fasting 3 days by Jagadananda Pandit, smashing the pot of sandalwood oil, these are all spiritual experiences in pure love of Godhead. And we should worship them, relish them, and narrate and glorify them. This is the purpose of our life. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very, very beautiful class. Enlightening and very, very glorification of Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I don't know. Is it okay?
I can hear you, Mataji, with full volume. Yes.
Volume.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Because I put the full volume, but I.
No. We can hear Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a very enlightening class today, and very, very grateful to you. And it's very, very, very beautiful. Nice pastimes that you have related. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. And we look forward to your association again. And if anybody has any question, I don't have a question, just very nice nectar. So anybody has any question, please go ahead and ask the Prabhuji question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful class, I should say. It was so nectarian. The verses itself, speaks a lot about the mood of Jagannatha Pandit and Gadadhar Pandit. The way you took it as to Krishna Leela was so overwhelming. And I could see, the mood, you were expressing that wonderful Leela. It was so nice that even I could feel that you yourself is envisioning and you are making us also envision that wonderful Leela. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for taking us to Krishna Leela through Chaitanya Leela. That was so wonderful. And every time, you always discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita, you always combine it with Krishna Leela. And when you discuss Krishna Leela, you always combine with Chaitanya Leela. So I really like that. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for accepting our request, for coming on the call and, enlightening us on these wonderful topics. Really indebted and grateful to you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Actually, it is my honor. I was telling Priti Vilasani Mataji also once, it's my honor to be given this privilege and opportunity to speak on Bhakti Sangha. I am not qualified. You have so many exalted speakers, but you still accept service from me. And for that, I am very grateful. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such beautiful katha. It was so nice. It was so nice to hear the story of Krishna and Rukmini, and then drawing parallels with Ram and Sita, Ravana. It was so nice, such a beautiful class, very heartwarming class. Prabhu, I have this question about Jagdananda Pandit and yeah, Jagdananda Pandit and Gadadhar Pandit. So Gadadhar Pandit had the mood of Rukmini Devi trying to be submissive, and Jagdananda Pandit was leftist, meaning he was a little more, he loved provoking sweet quarrels. So also, I mean, this is, I think, a very commonly asked question, but somehow I've never understood the answer clearly. And the question is that if Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani, who has the mood of Satyabhama in one sense, how is it that we have Gadadhar Pandit being so submissive? I mean, is there a way to reconcile the understanding why, though Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani, still the mood is that of Rukmini. So, can you comment a little more on that so that I can put things in place?
So just like Priti Vilasini Mataji, just like Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Krishna is the source of Lord Balaram also. For example, in Chaitanya Bhagavad it is mentioned that once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was walking down the streets of Navadvip with Shrivas Thakur, Murari Gupt, Shivananda Sen, Advaita Prabhu, everyone, and he saw, and Nityananda Prabhu also was there, and he saw a tavern. Tavern is a place where people come and they drink alcohol, they drink wine. So Mahaprabhu and his associates were doing Nam Sankirtan and they were walking on the streets of Navadvip and they came in front of a tavern. And the smell of wine was thick in the air, even outside the tavern. And Mahaprabhu smelled wine, alcohol. And with that smell of alcohol, Mahaprabhu remembered Varuni, beverage of the spiritual world. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the presence of Nityananda Prabhu, went into the mood of Lord Balaram. And he said, I will go inside. I will go, Varuni, 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 I will enter. And Shrivas Thakur fell at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. He said, Mahaprabhu, how will the world understand if you go inside that tavern? People will criticize you. They will say, Nimai Pandit is going to a place where people are drinking wine. What kind of a Brahman is he? No, 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 please don't go inside. And Mahaprabhu looked at Shrivas Thakur. He said, Shrivas, I am Bhagavan. I am Bhagavan Balram. How can you stop me? Let me go. I am Balram. And then Srivas Thakur said, Mahaprabhu, if you enter that place of wine, that place of intoxication, I'm telling you, you step inside that place and I will jump into the Ganga and give up my life. Srivas Thakur says like that. So then Mahaprabhu says, all right, if that is the case, then I will not go. But then Mahaprabhu, he inspired all the drunkards inside, being the Paramatma in their heart, he inspired them to come out. And they came out and Mahaprabhu told them, chant Hari Hari. And all of them started doing Nam Sankirtan. And then Mahaprabhu continued his Nam Sankirtan and all the drunkards became devotees. And they started following Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu wanted to go inside to preach. But because Srivas would not let him go inside, he called them out. But the point we are trying to make is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna and Nityananda Prabhu is Balram. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going into the mood of Balram. How is that? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Avatari. He is the source of all incarnations, including Balram. Ramchandra, Narsimha Bhagwan. Therefore, we have Gaur Narsimha, we have Gaur Varaha, we have Shadbhuj Gauranga. Because Mahaprabhu is the original fountainhead of all the incarnations. Similarly, Priti Vilasini Mataji, similarly, Srimati Radharani is the fountainhead of all the incarnations of the goddesses of fortunes. So, Srimati Radharani is the source of Chandravali. In Golok Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani has Vamya Bhav because of her association with Lalita Sakhi. So Radharani has Vamya Bhav, where she has affectionate anger for Krishna. She goes into Man. Chandravali, on the other hand, who is Radharani's direct expansion to serve Krishna. Because Radharani wants to serve Krishna in both the moods, Vamya and Dakshin. So, and then there's Madhyam Bhav also in the middle. So Radharani is Radharani original, and then she manifests herself as Chandravali, who is Dakshin Bhav, submissive. This Chandravali expands as Rukmini Devi. And Radharani expands herself as Satyabhama in Dwarka. Vishakha Sakhi expands herself as Kalindi, the wife of Krishna in Dwarka, one of the 8 principal wives. And Lalita Sakhi expands herself as Jambavati, another queen of Krishna in Dwarka. And all the other gopis of Vrindavan also, they expanded themselves as the queens of Krishna in Dwarka to serve Krishna in Dwarka. Because as Krishna's Ladini Shakti, pleasure potency, Radharani wants to give pleasure to Krishna in Dwarka also. So Radharani is present there in the form of Rukmini Devi, Satyabhama, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, and everyone else. So it is Radharani only who is manifesting in all these forms. Now Radharani has got different moods to serve Krishna in different ways. So Rukmini Devi has a Dakshin Bhav, Rukmini Devi has a Dakshin Bhav, although because she's Chandravali. And Satyabhama has got a Vamya Bhav because she's Radharani. Is that making sense now, Mataji?
Very nice, very, very nice, Prabhu. Very clear.
This Rupa Goswami writes in Vidagdha Madhav.
Wonderful, wonderful.
In fact, he says that Lalita Sakhi, when Krishna left Vrindavan, she jumped off Govardhan mountain. I don't want to live. She jumped off. And Jambavan, from Ramayana, he came and he caught her. And he, grew her up. He took care of her in the cave, and then she became his daughter. And then she manifested herself as Jambavati, and then the daughter of Jambavan, and then she got married. Then like that, she says, then Yamuna river, she's an expansion of Vishakha Sakhi. So Vishakha Sakhi, who is Yamuna, became Kalindi, the wife of Krishna, like that. So all these moods are coming from Radharani only.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. So beautiful. Thank you for the answer. Hare Krishna.
Does anyone else have a question? Otherwise, by permission, Prabhuji, we can end the call.
Yes, Mataji, we can end the call. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for enlightening today's class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much. It's a nice class.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We learned a lot today.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
so much,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Very much.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Good to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Prabhu. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri
Thank you so much,
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu. Thank you.
Kripa Sindhu,
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo
Namo Namaha.
Ananda Koti